Thank you, Billy. So I hope you can see why we're excited about this. It's going to help us define our mission, to define our audience. And so the third thing I would like to do before we open to ask questions and answers is to introduce our president and let him share with you a little bit. It's been quite a process. It was a shared governance process. And we were looking for somebody who could do the first two things we talked about. We were looking for a whole person. I believe if you're going to ask your students to be whole people, that your president probably should embody that. So we were looking for a president who's spiritually alive, intellectually alert, physically disciplined, socially adept, and professionally competent, and as well as somebody who can take us to the 21st century with spiritual empowerment. And so the other thing we did, we had a list of 40 things. I don't know if you ever went on the website and saw what we asked for in our president. It was what I many times refer to, somebody who walks, somebody like Jesus, but popular, and so we didn't want him to get crucified, and stuff. But as we went through that list, I was sharing with the trustees that I felt that after meeting, me and my wife went to meet Mark and Allison, and his wife has been sick. She's feeling better. I think she'll be able to join us this evening, but please keep Allison in your prayers. She's an amazing lady. We didn't get one person here. We got a team, and so we're excited about that. And but I just want to give him an opportunity to share his heart a little bit for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll have questions and answers. So help me in welcoming Dr. Mark Rutland.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a joy to be with you today, and it is a joy to contemplate our full arrival here. Since I have accepted and that election has occurred from the Board of Trustees, and I have tendered my resignation at Southeastern University, where I've served now for more than a decade, I have been aware that my gravitational field has shifted faster than I thought. And so the other night I was working on I'm preaching on this coming Tuesday in chapel. I preach most of the chapels at Southeastern, and I was working on this sermon for chapel on Tuesday, and I looked at some of the things I'd put into it, and I realized that I was preparing the chapel message for the wrong school. That I was actually contemplating things I intended to say at an early chapel at ORU. So before I say something absolutely atrocious at Southeastern, I need to go ahead and get here. So I want to tie into something that Billy said with regard to the ubiquity of Oral Roberts graduates. It's phenomenal. I never had people come up to me and say, I'm an ORU alum, or I went to med school, or I went to law school, or I attended undergraduate school, whatever, until my name became associated with the university. And now they are just absolutely everywhere. The just passed national president of the Alumni Association at Southeastern University is actually a graduate of the law school here. And I didn't know that. And really didn't want to know it until I was elected here. I only wanted to know about his association there. So it's sort of like I heard Hank Aaron being interviewed about the day he broke Babe Ruth's record when he hit the 715th home run. He said that since that time he has met more people who were there than the stadium will hold. So I feel that's what's happening now is that people who are graduates of second-rate universities like Harvard are now claiming so we may have to come up with a whole new category of honorary alumni or build a bigger stadium, one or the other. I want to just share a brief word with you about the power of influence. I spend my life with young adults. There are about 3,100 students at Southeastern, a little bit less than that here, and so I'm surrounded by young adults. And these millennials have a low level of tolerance for, or perhaps tolerance for, or at least appreciation for positional leadership. They are not impressed with titles. They don't care where you've been. They don't care what you've been elected to. They want to know if you can influence their lives. And I am becoming more and more engaged with the idea of influential leadership. In fact, even my education is not in anything useful. It's in church growth. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that one of the disciplines, some of the terminology of my discipline, church growth, is more and more irrelevant. And that is the terminology of a megachurch. And I'm now starting to use more churches of influence. Because you have a town of 3,000 people, and you have a church of 300 people. 10% of the persons in that town go to that church. It'll never be categorized as a megachurch, but it is, for all intents and purposes, the mega reality in that town. It is a church of influence. And I'm wanting in this next phase of my life and leadership to invest more in what influence is all about. I read a fascinating account of the Secret Service agent who saved Ronald Reagan's life on the day that he was shot, when he was wounded. You'll remember that Secret Service agent acted with astonishing promptitude and thrust President Reagan into the back seat of the limousine and dived on top of him, and they raced to the hospital and saved Reagan's life. They asked him, why did you decide to become a Secret Service agent? He said when he was in elementary school, he went to a movie called The Code of the Secret Service. And it was about a Secret Service agent with the kind of name that Hollywood in the 50s could come up with and get away with, Brass Brannigan. You couldn't do that now. But he was taken with the personality of Brass Brannigan in that movie theater and made his mind up that day to become a Secret Service agent. Now, the remarkable part of that story is that it was Ronald Reagan who played Brass Brannigan. So I am seeing more and more the bread upon the waters principle, the payback of the leadership of influence. That there are those into whom and into whose lives we will invest ourselves as creatively as possible at this university. Faculty, staff, administration, leadership at every level, into whom we will pour ourselves diligently and faithfully, out of whom we expect a great return for the kingdom and for God's cause. We believe that there will be a great payback. I think back on the people who have profoundly influenced my life, the leaders that touched my life. Some of those early leaders in my life have, for some reason, put their arm around a young man's shoulders. I don't know whether they realized that there was some hope for me or whether they despaired that there was any hope and thought they'd just try anything. But one of those was Dr. Jimmy Buskirk, and he and I have been friends since we were both at Emory together. He was working on his doctorate when I was working on my master's degree, and we became great friends at that time. When he came here as the dean of the seminary, then some years later, the university chaplain, my history is a bit weak, but I think maybe it was Bob Stamps, left. And Jemmy approached me to come and be the university chaplain. I had just finished my education, and they wanted me to be the university chaplain and teach homiletics at the graduate level. And I was very engaged by the idea. I came out here and interviewed and met Oral Robertson. It was a great time. And now nobody can court you like Oral Roberts. And I got right up to the altar, and somehow I just couldn't take it. It didn't work for me, and I backed away. And so Jimmy was disappointed. And as he took me to the airport, I told this last night to the medical people at their banquet. But when I got out at the airport at Tulsa, he said, "Okay, obviously you're not coming, and I accept that, and it's your decision." But he said, "I just somehow feel that you'll wind up at ORU." So after the election the other day, my phone rang, and the phone number on my cell phone I didn't recognize, so I just answered hello. And a vaguely familiar voice on the other end of the phone said, "Is this Mark Rutland?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "This is Jimmy Buskirk," and I told you so.